our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Simone and Gerhard Mathangani.
The college football season rolls on in the SEC. A lot of drama on the field that we'll get to, but also a lot of drama off the field as well. LSU head coach Brian Kelly out. You see the record, 34-14, but another loss this year means they were out of the college football playoff, and he is now out of a job, one of the highest buyouts ever. Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. I'm Gerhard Mathangani, joined by Patrick Walsh. Patrick, you called this last week. We were talking to Chesa Boucher, and you were asking her a question. If Brian Kelly, this game would be the next James Franklin. You suffer a game in a loss that maybe where the crowd noise and the fan noise gets a little bit louder than what's going on in the football program, and another coach out of a job.
Yeah, and I feel like it's just the telltale of what a couple of weeks difference it can make, really. Yep. I mean, I know a few weeks ago there were some rumors that Brian Kelly might go and take the Penn State job, and then everyone shot that down right away and be like, no, he's committed to building a program here. Well, 3 weeks later, Brian Kelly, as you mentioned, does not have a job anymore. I mean, it's just crazy how fast your world can flip upside down in this league. But, I mean, coming into this season, this had to be the year for him with all the talent, the talent coming back. You had Garrett Nussmeier come back, and you just didn't get it done. And it's just been a telltale of Brian Kelly's tenure here at LSU. He did great in his first year. He got that extension. And since then, I mean, he didn't finish a season with less than 2 losses, or less than 3 losses.
Correct. And the storylines coming into this season were, number one, he could not win a big opening game to start the season.
Yes.
And seemingly he did so against Clemson on the road.
Yeah.
Then that win got watered down week after week after week as Clemson really struggled on the road. Then it was, could you win some of the big games? And that's where the problems were, because I think a lot of people, if you're just watching outside of the football space, you look at his record and you're like, you fired a guy that won 34 of his 48 games.
But you look at that second there.
Correct.
AP ranked teams 5-11. I mean, that's just, you're not going to win in the SEC when it's like that. I mean, especially not at LSU when the expectations are as high as ever.
Yeah, and if you need to know anything about LSU, Ed Orgeron, Les Miles, Nick Saban, all won national championships within the first 4 years. Ed Orgeron ended up getting fired by this program. So this program has the demands of this program are so insanely high, and the fact that where they're located. I mean, there's so much talent right there. We talk about the Florida job, but LSU. I mean, there's literally, I think per capita, if you put like a 200-mile square around Baton Rouge, most NFL players, or a lot of NFL players, most by per capita, come from that area. So recruiting, you should be able to recruit to LSU just fine, and they want to win. And next thing you know, he's now out of a head coaching job. What I find interesting is just the way all this is happening.
Right.
This is now 3 SEC jobs, and I believe 7 or 8 Power 4 jobs that are now open.
Unreal.
Before Halloween. Before Halloween, these
but
jobs
it's got
open.
This is probably going to be commonplace now because of the transfer portal.
Correct.
Only one window from January 2nd to the 16th, and you've got to fire if you want to make a change. You got to fire these guys early on in the season. You got to have a short leash with them, so that way you can do your national search and get a coach in time for that transfer portal to have the right amount of time to be able to evaluate the guys that you already have and then add some new guys that you want.
I'll ask you to put that graphic up one more time, because I want to ask you a question. I don't know if you did it this way on purpose, but left to right, is that your ranking as far as the way that these jobs are?
I did it by
chronological order. Yeah. No, but honestly,
it definitely does.
Yeah, as I look at it, that's the order as far as like, hey, LSU to me is the number 1 job, Florida's the number 2 job, Arkansas is the number 3 job, and I know that's just the order chronologically. That's the order in which all those coaches were now fired. So it's going to be a really interesting development as this moves forward, and we'll talk about that a whole lot more. Our topics for today, we will include both Brian Kelly and the offensive coordinator. Word out today, offensive coordinator Joe Sloan also out as well. Texas escapes in Starkville. I have no idea how. I'm still scratching my head about that one. And poor Mississippi State, they are just struggling right now.
They still covered.
Up 7. They did. They covered. They probably should have won the ball game up 17 in the 4th. But we will talk about that. Also, Vanderbilt continues to rewrite history. Another win over a top 15 program. They are now in the top 10. And the new AP poll is out. Vanderbilt, several others in the house as well in that top 25 ranking. We will break all that down, and we will do so with our guests. Lots to talk about with all three of these gentlemen. Roger Wallace, who covers the Texas Longhorns, get a big win. We will
to stay in Tupelo, Mississippi. He told me.
Yes, we'll get everything from his stay in Tupelo, Mississippi, to the just unbelievable win for the Longhorns in that matchup. Also talk with Corey Curtis. He has been telling us, we have to give him his flowers. He has been telling us this entire time this Vanderbilt team was legit. They continue to prove it week after week. And Brian Brinkley from Oklahoma City, of course, the Thunder dropped the banner about this time last week, and then now the Oklahoma Sooners still trying to find some light after losing that game to Ole Miss this past week. But let's go back to Brian Kelly, because we've talked a lot about just the way college football is right now and where we stand right now. Brian Kelly out. I read a report from NOLA.com that there was a heated exchange between Brian Kelly and the athletic director, Scott Woodward. Keep in mind, Scott Woodward was the athletic director at Texas A&M.
For Jimbo Fisher.
You mentioned,
so how does this guy still have a job? Can we talk about this real quick?
That's the thing.
This guy is responsible for the two largest buyouts
ever
in college football, and ongoing $130 million worth of buyouts.
Yes, more than $70 million for Jimbo Fisher, which is the highest of all time. And now this buyout for Brian Kelly, north of $54 million, making it the second highest buyout of all time, both hired by the same gentleman. And you're right. I have no idea how Woodward still keeps his job after all of this. I know LSU fans are really passionate about what goes on the field. I think you have to be passionate about what's going on upstairs as well, because it just doesn't look good for Woodward.
Look, I mean, I'm not really surprised that Brian Kelly had a heated exchange with him, because, one, he's just a fiery guy. I mean, we saw it about a month ago when he was, flaming all the reporters, asking about the offense. Well, maybe the reporters were right all along. I mean, we've talked about it all season. What is this offense doing? Why does this offense not look like the LSU caliber offense that we're accustomed to?
Mm-hmm.
And he tried to, just play damage control. Oh, no. Why would you ask something like that? We won the game. Yeah, you won that game. And then you lost 2 straight to end your tenure at LSU.
Yep. So, LSU, and that offense, as you talked about, I got some numbers here. The 124th ranked offense in the country. 124th in rushing, just about 100 yards per game, 91st in red zone efficiency. And there you see some of the hard line stats there as well. 25.5 points per game. That is 12th in the SEC. The back end of the SEC as far as yards are considered as well. And we just talked about the rushing yardage, last in the SEC. And you're just not used to that. You're not used to that with this program.
No.
This program puts offensive linemen and running backs in the NFL consistently every year. You add on top of that you have Gerhard Nussmeier, and you mentioned it when we started the show, the only 4,000-yard passer for a year ago that was coming back to college football was Gerhard Nussmeier. And whether it was injuries or just the lack of synergy with the offensive coordinator, he just really never looked on track for an extended period of time.
Right, and I feel like you've got to go back to, 3 years ago now when he was the starter for a year at LSU, and then Jaden Daniels came in and took over the role, and then it went back to Gerhard Nussmeier. Right. And it almost feels like, should we have seen this coming? I mean, you had Jaden Daniels come in from Arizona State, which that just, I didn't even mean to bring that up, because that just leads me into my next point. Brian Kelly had all this talent and didn't do anything with it. Nothing. Like, he had Malik Neighbors, Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
And literally, what they have to show for it is what? Just a
3 bowl wins.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, at least he went 3-0 in bowl games.
Yeah. But this is a team that, especially now with the playoff being 12 teams, I think that's even a bigger point, because Nick Saban won it when it was the BCS and it was just 2 teams got in, and then Ed Orgeron won it when it was 14 playoff. And 2 games, they ended up winning it. They have one of the greatest seasons of all time.
Greatest rosters of all time, too.
Oh, no doubt. And I compared this year's roster. There was a lot of similarities to what they had in 2019. Dynamic receivers on the outside, an incredible defense and a quarterback that's seasoned, that's ready to go. You had Joe Burrow in 2019, you had Garrett Nussmeier, and it just never really got on track there. 5-3 this year, so once again, no playoff. And barring a miracle, the playoff is completely out of contention for this football team. And I mean, they still could lose a couple more games. They still have a bye week this week. Then they have Alabama. Then they play a hungry Arkansas team, and then they play Oklahoma to end the season. So the losing can essentially continue for this football squad.
I mean, you go into that Alabama game. Alabama's off this week as well, and they get a much-needed bye after playing 5 straight very tough games. So Alabama's going to be rested and ready to go. That's probably going to be a close game. Arkansas plays everyone close. They just come out on the losing end every time. So, I mean, that's going to be a close game. And then the one to end of the year, that's also going to be a close game. So, I mean, it feels like a wasted year for sure for LSU. I mean, all of these preseason expectations, I bought into the hype. I named them my SEC champion. And yet again, it just proves that Brian Kelly was just not able to get the job done. I don't know who's happier right now, LSU fans that he's gone or Notre Dame fans, because Marcus Freeman ended up being a little bit better than Brian Kelly.
Yep. And I literally just saw where about 30 minutes ago where Marcus Freeman actually came out with a statement after.
Oh, really?
I think he was just asking his normal weekly press conference about it, and say, he obviously expressed how said you don't want anybody to lose their job, the persons and their families and the people affected, especially somebody that at the end of the day. We're always rooting for Coach Kelly. He gave me an opportunity here when he was here at Notre Dame. He's always rooting for him, but this is this profession, and we've chosen this profession, and we know it's a result of choosing this profession. So I mean, it's all the main talking points that you would say, but no, you're right. I think that there's a lot of people who are saying probably the real star coach on that staff was not Brian Kelly, and Brian Kelly parlayed it to the LSU job, but Marcus Freeman has done nothing but basically win, took his team to the national championship, close to a natty, if it wasn't for for Ohio State. So the question now is, of course, he doesn't think about it right now because he's going to be $54 million. But the question now is that what's next for Brian Kelly? Like, where does he go from here?
It's so weird because I feel like I've heard Penn State fans be like, oh, we want Brian Kelly.
Right.
If you're Penn State, and I'm going to go off here for a second.
Okay, I like it.
If you're Penn State, why would you want to hire the Nick Saban of James Franklin in Brian Kelly? Oh, you couldn't win a big game with James Franklin. Oh, here we go. Why don't you go ahead and take Brian Kelly, who ever since you could go back to his Notre Dame days and he still couldn't win a big game.
That's right.
Yeah, let's just throw him in here and see if we can, change it up or anything.
The Nick Saban of James Franklin's is great.
He's the Nick Saban of James Franklin's.
That's right.
I don't know how else to put it. The guy cannot win big games. You just fired a guy that cannot win a big game.
Right.
What are we doing?
No, I'm right there with you. And I think that and the only reason, in my opinion, if you would hire Brian Kelly is if you think that he's a better cultural fit, because it really never felt like he fit at LSU.
There's no accent.
No.
In Penn State.
No, there isn't. There isn't.
You can't just fake a Southern accent. I mean, maybe get on a horse and buggy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
I'm right there with you. I don't know where Penn State goes from here. I have an idea where LSU is going to try to go from here. It's the same place that Florida and Arkansas and all the other places will go to. So the question now is not only what's next for Brian Kelly, what's next for LSU, and who do you think is at the top of that board, so to speak?
I feel like it's got to be a guy right up the road in Lane Kiffin.
Yep.
Now I think, but here's the thing though. If Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss keep on winning, it is a major L for all of these programs that want to target him. And I mean, especially Florida, because Florida has been linked to him pretty much ever since the season started. Everyone knew that this would probably be Billy Napier's last year. But with how the transfer portal is set up now, January 2nd to the 16th.
Right.
At this rate, I would be shocked if Ole Miss wasn't in the college football playoff. I would honestly be shocked.
Absolutely.
If they don't make it, that's more impressive than if they actually made it.
Correct. Yes.
Because that would take the wheels falling off. And I think next week they've got South Carolina and then Citadel after.
Yeah.
If Ole Miss makes the playoff, Lane Kiffin's going to have to coach at least on December 16th or whenever it starts.
Yeah.
You cannot, even if he goes on the first round, that's still going to be, all right, he's going to get on campus around December 18th. That is nowhere near enough time for you to be able to evaluate everyone and make the necessary transfer portal. I don't care if he's the transfer portal king.
Right.
That's still just not enough time.
It's really not. And that's kind of the quagmire, a lot of these early firings.
Yeah.
Because the people that you are going after, all the good ones, are getting ready for the playoffs.
Right.
And if you're going into the NFL, the season doesn't end till late December, early January. And so it's hard to get those guys as well. So the best you can do is get a guy maybe in the group of 5 that their season ends early or a bowl game is early. Maybe a guy like John Summerall and a few others that have had, lots of talk about them going into the year. And you have to hope they don't make the playoff as well. So it's a really fine line here because you can't wait too long because, as you said, that transfer portal will close mid-January.
Yeah.
And if let's just say Lane has his team in the semifinals or in the national championship game, you
that's
won't be able to
passed.
talk. Yes. And the door's already closed on all of that as well. So still so much to get into as far as LSU's next coaching candidate for that program. Obviously, all eyes will be on that in college football. We will also talk Ole Miss, and we have 3 special guests on the program here today as well. Keep it right here. Southeast Sports Plus continues after the break. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, another week of the college football season in the books. We got a lot more clarity about who we think will be in the college football playoff. Gerhard, Mathangani, Patrick Walsh with you. You mentioned it on the front end about Ole Miss, and this is a football team, in my opinion, they're playing lights out right now. They bounced back after that loss against Georgia last week with a huge win on the road. And I'll tell you what Lane Kiffin has been able to do with this football program has been outstanding, and especially to put 30-plus up on that defense. The Oklahoma defense, which has been very, very good as of late, it really showed me a lot. So Ole Miss, the Rebels improved to 7-1 overall. There you see it, 34-26, the final score in Norman. What'd you make of Ole Miss's big win on Saturday?
I think this game told me more about Ole Miss than it did about Oklahoma.
Yeah.
In my opinion, after that tough loss, they had every reason, especially Trinidad Chambliss, his first SEC road test. He didn't have the outcome he wanted, but Lane Kiffin, compared him to a pitcher pitching in Fenway.
Yes.
And then he had to go to Yankee Stadium here this week.
Right.
I think what Trinidad was able to do in this game was probably one of the most impressive performances of the whole season so far, especially with how poor the weather was. I mean, I remember I was on a plane up to good old Morgantown, West Virginia this weekend, and I was watching the game. I'm like, man, it is really pouring there.
Yeah, it was coming down hard. And it was one of those things where you would think that would make a team shy away from throwing the football. And, of course, they had a very strong running game. Yeah. But Chambliss put it in the air 44 times. I mean, they had 44 passing attempts from him, 2 from Austin Simmons because they got in the red zone. They gave Austin Simmons a little run there. So they were 24 of 46 through the air. So they did not shy away at all from running the football, from passing the football. And then, of course, they were running it as well with Kewan Lacey. But I'm just very, very, very impressed by what we've seen so far from this passing game and Trinidad Chambliss, a.k.a. Winidad Chambliss.
Winidad Chambliss is right. That's a great nickname.
That is a great nickname.
He better go with that. But before the year, everyone thought Austin Simmons was going to be the guy, a nice gunslinger, lefty. Came in, he didn't have a great game against Georgia State, and then got hurt in the Kentucky game, threw 2 interceptions before he got hurt. And then it was Trinidad's time to take over, and honestly, there's no way Austin can win this job back now, in my opinion.
Right.
I feel like it's a done deal. It's not like Bledsoe Brady level, where it's like
it's comparable.
But it is comparable.
Yeah. And I think that what you get with Trinidad is you get improvement. So even when there's a dip, like last week against Georgia, I think I read it he had 1 yard passing in the fourth quarter against the Georgia Bulldogs. And then what he did in the second half of this game, I think more than 100 yards there in the third and fourth quarter. It lets you know that this kid can continue to keep building. And I'm right there with you. I think that Lane Kiffin will. He loves Austin Simmons. Of course, he represented Ole Miss at SEC Media Days. And so it's not that he doesn't like Austin Simmons, and he tries to find creative ways to put him in there and just keep defenses on their toes. But you're right. I think Trinidad Chambliss has done everything right to be able to win this job and be able to secure this team now going to the playoffs. You mentioned their schedule coming up. You have South Carolina, the Citadel, Florida, Mississippi State. They'll be favorites in every game.
Oh, yeah.
They'll be a favorite in every single game going into that one. And it seems to me, I don't know if they'll play for the college football playoff. They need some havoc to go on above them because there are still 2 undefeated teams in the SEC. You have Texas A&M, you have Alabama.
You mean the SEC Championship?
SEC Championship, yeah. And I think they'll make it to the playoffs, obviously. But SEC Championship, there's 2 undefeated squads, the Aggies and Alabama.
Right.
And then Georgia is ahead of them. Of course, Georgia will also have the head-to-head over Ole Miss as well. So they'll need a couple teams to stumble in order to make it to Atlanta. But I feel like they'll feel very strongly that they're in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about the question: are the Rebels a college football playoff lock now? And I feel like they probably are because this was arguably the toughest game remaining on their schedule.
Yep.
I mean, who knows what South Carolina is going to bring? That's a home game, though.
Yeah.
We saw South Carolina host Alabama this weekend and played them pretty tough, but we'll see how they do away from home because, I mean, you can't even talk about the Death Valley game anymore because Death Valley is Living Valley at this point.
Yep.
Both of the Death Valleys are living valleys.
Yeah, like the old Les Miles quote that Death Valley where opponents' dreams go to die. I think it's complete opposite now, where opponents' dreams stay alive.
Come alive.
Because they come alive after that big game. It wasn't just through the air, though. Also on the ground. Kewan Lacey was sensational. And the numbers don't blow you away, but he was so very effective in the timing of a lot of these runs. A 28-yard run, a pair of touchdowns, 78 yards there on the ground. To me, when a team is balanced, and it looks like Ole Miss can be balanced, it looks like Ole Miss will be balanced throughout the end of the season, that's what makes a team very dangerous because they can run the football effectively.
Yeah, it's not so much the rush yards that really stick out to me. It's more so the fact that he has 12 touchdowns this year.
Yes.
I mean, you get in the red zone. Trinidad's going to get you the ball down the field.
Absolutely.
I mean, explosive plays, that's basically the name of the Ole Miss offense.
Right.
I think they had like a 50-yard completion on the first drive of the game that set them up for a field goal. It's being able to punch it in the red zone that's going to make you – it's going to take you from being a good team to a great team.
Yep.
And I think having a guy like Kewan Lacey to just be able to hand the ball off to keep, the defense on their toes.
Exactly.
But also Trinidad can just lay one in there whenever he needs. I mean, it really is a 2-pronged attack that, I mean, it's going to be tough.
It's lethal.
If Brent Venables cannot stop this offense,
right.
Who can?
Who can? It's a good question, and I think that they'll go undefeated throughout the rest of the year, finish 11-1, and make the college football playoff. We'll see if they can sneak into Atlanta. Of course, a lot of things have to happen. Got a chance to hear from Lane Kiffin after the game about his team, his win, and their resiliency in Norman.
Yeah, I think that's how this team is. I kind of felt coming into the year like we don't have maybe as many elite guys as last year. Or that they're younger, like Kiwan, Winnie. So you're going to need these wins. You're going to need close wins. Not what every game has been one score, right? It feels like. And you're going to need guys to make significant plays. Daquan was very limited today in what he could do. I actually tried to, take him out. Not that it was a medical non-clearancing. I just felt he was playing with a major injury today, and he just put himself back in, and so it's really cool to have guys like that. We live in a world that they ain't all like that anymore. They start listening to agents and their draft status, and they sit out as soon as they got an injury. So really cool by him.
Really interesting there. He kind of gave a peek behind the curtain on what some of these guys do, and he's saying that our guys are basically bucking the trend of what we've seen in major college football. Let's flip to the other side with Oklahoma, because this is a program that they were absolutely rolling. And then, of course, the Auburn game happens. They win the game, but they lose their quarterback. He's out for 17 days.
You win, but at what cost?
Exactly. And then so they get the Auburn game. They, of course, beat Kent State with Michael Hawkins Jr. And then John Mateer comes back in the Red River rivalry. They score only 6 points in that game. Then you think, okay, that's a formidable loss. That's okay. You could get away with that. But since then, it still hasn't looked the same as it did in the first 5 weeks of the season. What do you make here of Oklahoma now sitting here with a pair of losses?
Yeah, I feel like rushing to get back, and I know Mark from Oklahoma City came on and said this too. He did not understand the rush to get back for the Texas game. I mean, you could have afforded a loss to Texas, and your college football playoff hopes would not have been tanked. What you could not afford was John Mateer rushing to get back. And for him to play like this since then. Those 3 interceptions did all come in the Red River rivalry, but last 2 games, only 1 touchdown pass in each game. But, I mean, before his injury, he was the rushing attack and the passing attack. I mean, he was the whole offense for Oklahoma.
Yes.
Ever since he's come back, he hasn't really ran for touchdowns. I mean, the rushing yards are definitely down. The carries are still there.
Right.
But
it's just not the same production. It hasn't been the same production at all, and it leaves a lot of people's heads scratching about where this team is, because you don't really know, and of course he's going to say his hand's fine and everything else, but he just simply has not played the same way that he did in the first 5 or so weeks of the season. We got a chance to hear from QB1 in Norman.
Yeah, I mean, you can't miss opportunities when they're there. I had a lot of misreads, and I thought the guys played well, but didn't take advantage of all the opportunities. 1 for 3 in the red zone for touchdowns. You have to score in the red zone in this league and against that offense. You have to score, and we didn't do that. Yeah, I emphasized it in practice, throwing the ball down the field, and then I just missed. It can't happen in that situation. Something I got to learn from. Something I have to be better. Period. Got to be better.
And things don't get any easier this week as they go to Knoxville, Tennessee to play the 14th-ranked Tennessee Volunteers there at Neyland Stadium. Stay with us here on Southeast Sports Plus. We'll check in with Roger Wallace out of Austin after that big win for the Longhorns. Stay with us. Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus. We are coming off an incredible week of college football games all across the SEC. Perhaps one of the most entertaining games was in Starkville, Mississippi, as the Texas Longhorns go on the road. It's a very tough place to play, Patrick, and they got a big win over Cowbell and them Bulldogs.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're gonna bring Roger here in a second, but I'm sure his ears are probably still ringing from Starkville.
He made the trip from Austin, Texas, to Tupelo, Mississippi to Starkville. Roger, it's good to see you all back in one piece, coming back from an airline that none of us had heard of. But you made it back home with the win. Let's just talk what this win means for this program. The way that they were able to get the win. Last week, a game against Kentucky, 16-13. If you're just looking at the scoreboard, you're not very impressed. But the way that they were able to get it done against the Wildcats, and then this week, the way they're able to get it done, erasing a 17-point deficit to be able to get the win this week. What did you make of their performance there in Starkville?
Yeah, you said it. Get it done. Just find a way. I mean, Tennessee, they had to escape Starkville with an overtime win as well. We go back to Lexington. Ole Miss had to escape with a one-score win as well from Lexington. Somehow Texas doesn't seem to get that benefit of the doubt perception nationally of escaping with a win. It's always about how they do it, what they look like. Why aren't they better offensively? What's wrong with Arch Manning? What's wrong with Sark's play calling? What was wrong with the defense suddenly against Mississippi State? But they did. So they go 3-1 on this odyssey. They will play Saturday Vanderbilt at home, first time at home in 42 days. I had a hunch it was going to be a tough game. Mississippi State, what happened against Florida, Blake Shapen, he played against Texas when he was at Baylor. He didn't play last year when he was at Mississippi State. He was hurt. I had a hunch that they would play really well. They had a couple of former Longhorns, actually 3 that were very productive. Brendan Thompson, Jere Bledsoe, and Darren Gillette all had big moments in the game. Jeff Lebby and his ties, opposite Texas. But eventually, we say it every week, you just don't want to be that team. Texas was that team against Florida. They avoided being that team against Kentucky and Mississippi State, and now a tougher stretch to close the season with 4 games.
Absolutely. And at the beginning of the season and towards the middle of the season, Arch Manning really took a lot of lumps as far as the way he played. But for those that are, I say what's the old saying that the energy, like whenever things are going well, needs to be the same as when things are not going well. I have to give him his credit. More than 300 passing yards. He looked sensational before going out, obviously, with a concussion. What did you make of his performance all the way up until that moment, and where he stands now and where the program stands now offensively as they go into, as you mentioned, a gauntlet of a stretch here starting with Vanderbilt?
Yeah, and again, just to update you, Sark said he did not practice today. He's in protocol. That takes all the decision-making out of anybody except doctors' hands, and we don't know. So Matthew Caldwell took the 1 snaps. KJ Lacey took the 2 snaps, and, that's where we are. But obviously that was a big moment for Arch, what he did, especially in the fourth quarter, coming up with big plays. Even the play where he got injured was a scramble down to the 5-yard line in overtime, took a huge hit, had hit the turf, and he was done for the rest of the game. But I think, and he even, when he walked off the field after being in the medical tent, he was pumping his fists, and it was funny. Caldwell said, I told Arch I wish he could have finished it for the way he played, maybe a little window into what Matthew Caldwell's all about. But I think Arch is, regardless of, if he can play this week or not, that was a big moment for him going forward to do it in the fourth quarter, to come up with big chunk plays. That throw off schedule deep to Ryan Wingo in the fourth quarter was huge to set up a touchdown. Made some great touch passes to Parker Livingston, 2 different touchdowns, 1 to Emmett Mosley. So big confidence builder. And when you know it, right when that happens, he gets hurt, and we don't know his status. But again, this is a team that has found ways to win in different ways, and this time it was with the offense and then 4 straight stops on defense down the stretch against the Mississippi State team that was they were moving up and down the field at will in the second half on them.
Yeah. And Mississippi State's offense really, really strong going into it. This reminds me a little bit of what happened last year when Quinn Ewers goes down. Arch took advantage of the opportunities. For the world that does not know much about Matthew Caldwell, what are some of his traits? Obviously, the box score speaks for itself: 1 for 1, 10 yards, and a touchdown. But what are his strengths and some of the ways that they'll utilize him if he's the guy that has to play at least next week?
Yeah, he's from Auburn, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
He started at Jacksonville State. Then he went to Troy, started 5 games at Troy last year, and then was looking for a different landing spot. And I think Sark really wanted a veteran. He has 2 young guys, KJ Lacey, I mentioned, the freshman, and a sophomore, Trey Owens, from the Houston area. But, I mean, he's not had a season here where his quarterback hasn't missed a start. Mm-hmm. So I think he felt more comfortable if he could find a veteran. And Caldwell came in, and he came in the Florida game on that last drive when they were down 8 points, and Arch's helmet came off, so he had to come out for a play. And all Caldwell does is sprint out there, take a snap, and throw a dart to Ryan Wingo for a 26-yard gain, and then gives way to Arch. So his 2 biggest moments, he certainly produced. And that touchdown was an audible. He and Mosley made some eye contact and a little hand signal. If you go back and watch it, you can see it. That was an audible to throw that fade. So those are heat of the battle, adrenaline. Now, assuming Arch doesn't go, he's taking the 1 snaps today, tomorrow, probably Wednesday, regardless. So now he's got a week to prepare, but he's also got a week to think about it.
Absolutely.
And he's going to do it at home against a really good Vanderbilt team and a really good defense. So you never know how that affects him, but he was productive at Troy, and we've learned, Ole Miss, doesn't matter where you played quarterback.
Yes.
You could come in and produce. So I don't think, that was the stigma maybe 5-10 years ago. Oh, well, they did it at FCS or Division II. Right. That's not the same. Now we see that it can translate. So we'll see. We'll see if the running game has improved at all. C.J. Baxter, remember, Trey Wisner came back against Florida, wasn't terribly productive. Then his second game back, he was much more productive against Oklahoma. Maybe that happens with C.J. Baxter as well. But, probably not going to have Michael Taff again in the secondary with the broken fingers. So they're banged up. Offensive line's beat up a little bit. But, they do come home and play at home for 1 week before a bye week and then going to Athens.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk a little bit about the going back to Austin here in a second. We got a chance to hear from Steve Sarkisian about Matthew Caldwell.
Good thing for Matt, he's a very even-keeled guy. I thought he had a great practice today. I think the players have a lot of confidence in him. I think it's his maturity, his approach. He's very engaged even when he doesn't play. If you ever watched our sidelines in game, 18 is probably the most engaged player on that sidelines. He's always picking guys up, offense, defense, special teams. And so he's got a really good relationship with the guys. And so I don't think it's like, well, who's this guy? He's in a lot of faces a lot of the times. And so it felt very comfortable, felt very normal. Today was a guy who just wanted an opportunity. And that's what we were looking for, a guy who had taken some snaps in college football. And then that's how he's performed, since the day he got here. That's the way he's worked at it throughout camp and throughout the season. And he's making the most of his opportunity.
Roger, before we move on here to Vanderbilt, I want to highlight a guy that it seems like we've started talking about him a little bit more recently, and Ryan Niblett. Now, you're in Austin, Texas. There's a guy just up the road in Arlington named Cavante Turpin that really burst onto the scene after being a returner. Is he kind of following that same suit here?
He's pretty electric, and what he's done in 3 games is pretty remarkable. When you can point to a punt returner in 3 games in a row and said if they weren't the key, they were one of just a handful of keys to a victory. Turpin, I think, is a little more electric and slippery. Niblett's just really good, and he knows how to read the blocks. Now, he's fast, but I think Turpin's kind of maybe that next level guy. But Niblett's a little bit bigger than Cavante Turpin. It's the first time a Longhorns returned 2 punts for touchdowns in a season since Jordan Shipley, so you're going back to 08-09 era. But the fact that he has done it in the times of the game, and specifically this one, under 2 minutes to go, and Sark answered the question kind of defending Jeff Lebby and Mississippi State, saying it's easier said than done to kick away from a guy and not let him return it, because then the precision, you don't get a good punt. Maybe it's a 20, 25-yard punt out of bounds. You're giving a team a short field. I still contend with 2 minutes to go, I wouldn't kick to this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
I still wouldn't do it. And I'd say, okay, try your luck on defense, because then you get a chance to, even if the team drives, they got to get to the end zone.
Yep.
Nibble it, one home run, and he's to the end zone. And watch that play. And there's the last guy on their 51. His name was Marshall Landwehr. He was one of those great training camp, surprise him with a scholarship videos that came out from training camp this summer. He earned that scholarship on one block, that one on Saturday.
Absolutely. Special teams has been a big factor for this football team. The offenses look good. The defenses look solid as well in spurts and in moments. You mentioned it, first time in more than 40 days this team is coming back home, but the road doesn't get any easier as a top 10 team comes into Austin this week against Vanderbilt. I find it interesting that obviously Vegas knows that there's concussion protocol and there's a chance that there is no Arch Manning in this football game, but still Texas is a 1.5-point favorite going into this matchup. What do you make here of another chance, another opportunity not to just get a big win in the SEC, but upset one of the hottest teams in the country?
Yeah, doesn't it sound funny? Texas upsetting Vanderbilt.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, just look at my alma mater. They're sitting at 2 in the country, but that's another story. They were 0-11 when I was a senior.
Right.
This is the one that, okay, you can really help validate what's happened the last 3 weeks. If you can beat a rugged Vanderbilt team, Pavia, he wants another shot at Texas. Came close last year. That was their first home game since the Alabama game last year, and Texas came in. They jumped on Vanderbilt, and then it turned into a pretty tight ball game, and Vanderbilt had a chance. Longhorns made some big plays, but that was a game where Quinn Ewers came up big. DeAndre Moore had a couple of touchdowns, and they made some big stops on Pavia. Now, Missouri held them to 17 points. That was kind of a rough and tumble game, and I think Texas is pretty confident in their defense. But not only Pavia, it's going to be a big moment for their running back as well, coming back to Austin. And, Eli Stowers, the former Aggie. So Alexander is who I'm talking about for Vanderbilt. It's going to be a tough one. It's 11 a.m. at home. You're going to make sure that the Texas fans are ready to roll at 11. They've had some good success in early ball games. Texas fans would say they've had to play too many over the years with that Big 12 schedule. But this is so big, because if you can get this one, you get to 7-2, 4-1
right
to the bye week. And then, you go to Georgia. That's going to be a tall task no matter what. But then, you come home for Arkansas and A&M. So this is a pretty 3 weeks in a row we've been saying this, but pretty pivotal game for them.
Yeah, no question. Before Saturday's kickoff, something really interesting happened, and Diana Rossini, a veteran reporter, came out with a report, and it essentially said that Coach Sarkisian is interested as a possible replacement for one of the head coaching jobs. Namely, looked like the Tennessee job was the one. The Titans job was the one that was she was connecting him to. There was nothing definitive in the report, but a lot of people, obviously, ran with it. What do you make, obviously, of the reporting? I know that Sark has done his job of being able to shut these things down, but what did you make of the news when it first came out, and how valid do you think it is?
Well, the problem is that there's really no way to disprove it, because we don't know in what manner she got the information that it happened. And there's something so simple as I don't even know what could happen in a conversation that could make the report, quote unquote, accurate or not. But for it to happen on Saturday morning, players are getting on their phones when they get up.
Yeah.
And that's what took over Twitter for, about an hour, to the point where Jimmy Sexton's company has to put out a statement. How many times have we seen that? Yeah. I can't ever remember seeing a statement refuting a report about a report that really wasn't anything concrete. Correct. As far as they said this to them. So it was it was a weird situation. But, guys, I've been around Texas. It seems if there's weird, it's going to find Texas. And they always have something that they're dealing with. And it goes back to my first year covering Texas at the Sugar Bowl, and it was discovered they had an imposter on their roster that took the identity of a former junior college teammate.
Wow.
And played an entire season. And then the story broke 2 days before the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans, and he left. I mean, that's my baseline, guys, for things that, this can't be possible. I said, go back to 1995 Sugar Bowl 2 days before, and Ron Weaver was actually Ron McKelvey. And you don't discard anything. So it just seems to follow Texas, and with Sark's connection to the NFL, with the Atlanta Falcons, with the Oakland Raiders, it's an easy dot to connect.
Right.
That he might be interested because, again, what does that mean? Might be interested.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
We all might be interested in something, but nobody cares what we're interested in. But you know who does?
What's that?
Other coaches recruiting against
100%. 100%. And that's where it could really hurt Sark. But as you said, he got out ahead of it. Jimmy Sexton and their group got ahead of it as well. Before we let you go, one final thing as it relates to coaching. There are now 3 jobs in the SEC now open with the firing of Brian Kelly at LSU. Number one, what did you make of this firing? And being in the league as long as you can, as long as you have been, what do you make of the landscape right now where all these major jobs, including Penn State, including UCLA, now all open before Halloween?
It's staggering to think that, in October, LSU, Florida, and Penn State. I won't even put UCLA in that category.
Correct.
And that's certainly one that would get your attention a lot if those other ones weren't open. Virginia Tech and Oklahoma State. So, Brian Kelly was a weird fit from Notre Dame from the start. And then, they just couldn't win big games. But it is going to be a feeding frenzy. And I don't know what to make of it because I thought, and I think a lot of people thought, NIL would work in what is turned into be the opposite way. I thought, okay, the money needs to go so much more now to the athletes that we can't afford these buyouts. It seems like it's just the opposite. If things are going bad, we got to flip the script, and we've got to get the money people even more back on our side. If they're grumbling because the faucet might come off, so then all of a sudden you've got what you've got here, and my hunch it's not going to end.
Yep.
I know one place that they're you look at that Oklahoma schedule, and even though they started out well, number 6 in the country, but look what they did. They scored 24 against a Michigan team that was start 2 for Bryce Underwood. Yep. And they scored 24 against an Auburn team, both at home, not overwhelming, but John Mateer got a little bit of pub because of the way he plays, and all of a sudden he's a Heisman guy. And now they've still got to go into the belly of the beast of their schedule. And Brent Venables has been a guy that Oklahoma fans have been, kind of grumbling about, especially when he loses to Sark 3 out of 5 years. And, again, they don't score a touchdown. That's 3 games. Right. He's lost to Sark, and they haven't scored a touchdown.
Exactly. Now, it should be really interesting to keep your eye on, of course, that Oklahoma job as well. And you mentioned it, the 3 others that are in the SEC alone. Of course, it'll be really interesting to follow as we move forward. Roger.
Oh, by the way, Arkansas is open too.
And Arkansas,
when you mentioned them.
Yeah. That's almost like the forgot about job. I mean, because of all the high-profile jobs that are open. Roger, thank you so much for your time here on Southeast Sports Plus today.
All right, thanks, guys. Talk to you.
Absolutely. Roger Wallace covering the Texas Longhorns. Huge win for Texas last week. They can make a statement this week with Diego Pavia and company come to town.
Yeah, I mean, all of the eyes, honestly, are going to be on this game because it means the entire season is on the line for both of these teams. Absolutely. Vanderbilt off to their best start in almost 80 years. Yep. Texas needs to just win out to make the college football playoffs. So, I mean, you've got all the storylines heading into Austin this weekend.
No question. And probably a new QB1 and Matthew Caldwell entering that game for Sark and company. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, take a look at the new AP poll and the SEC Players of the Week. Closing up hour number 1 here on Southeast Sports Plus. We've talked about the rankings and some historic rankings. Vandy now in the top 10. We'll take a look at the AP top 25. Last week, Memphis was not ranked, and now they're number 25 team in the country. Utah is the exact same way. USC also not ranked last week. How about the Houston Cougars now up to 22 and number 21 in Michigan? This is a really these are 5 teams that I think can make some noise, especially those G5 teams.
Yeah, really impressed with Memphis being able to come back after the UAB loss, essentially knocking out South Florida of college football playoff contention. Now South Florida, I believe, has 2 losses
That's right. Yeah, I think
in
so.
conference play. And then Houston, they've got a real tough one against my Mountaineers this weekend. Real tough one.
Yeah, they should struggle in that one. Inside the top 20, Texas moves up a couple spots to number 20. You have Missouri, who falls after that loss to Vanderbilt. Oklahoma also making the drop 5 spots. Cincinnati and Louisville. I'm telling you what, Louisville continues to their stock continues to go up there with Jeff Brom and company.
Yeah, and I mean you can't look past Cincinnati either. Their old Big East rival. I mean, Cincinnati's really been able to get things going here after dropping the opener against Nebraska. But I feel like Texas, Mizzou, Oklahoma, 3 with banged up QBs.
That's right.
I mean, it's been a rough year for all of them.
Yep, and as you said, Texas has a big one coming up this week. Inside the top 15 we go. Virginia continues to open up eyes in and around the conference and around the country. Tennessee also up 3 spots. Texas Tech, they lost last week, of course, to Arizona State. They're back up in the polls. Notre Dame and BYU. What sticks out to you?
The fact that BYU and Miami are both ranked at 10th. I don't know the last time we saw a tie.
Yes.
I think you got to go back at least a year or 2
right,
since the last time we've seen 2 teams ranked at the top in the same spot.
Yep, in the top 10. Yep.
I think it's interesting. Texas, I think, is going to get their quarterback back this week, Baron Morton. I believe their backup actually is out for the rest of the year. I believe he suffered a season-ending injury. And I think Notre Dame's just going to sit at 12 until the rest of the season. And if they win out, I feel like they're a lock to make the playoff.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. As long as they keep winning, they'll be inside the top 12, especially when the committee poll comes out a little bit later as well. Inside the top 10 we go. As you mentioned, Miami, BYU tie there at number 10. You have Vandy up a spot, Georgia Tech, Ole Miss, and Oregon. What sticks out to you?
Ole Miss, we talked about them earlier on the show. I feel like at this point they're pretty much a lock to make the playoff. Georgia Tech, I mean, Haynes King. I look at the final week of the regular season and the clean old-fashioned hate is going to be an all-time game. Yes. Last year it was. I feel like this year it's just going to be even better.
I'm right there with you as well. Inside the top 5 we go. No change at the top 5. Ohio State still number 1, followed by Indiana, Texas A&M. Bama and Georgia. The one thing about Texas A&M that kind of makes me think, okay, in the AP poll they got 1 first-place vote, and in the coaches poll they got 2 first-place votes. So there's a lot of respect there for the Aggies going into this big week.
Yeah, I mean, obviously coming off that huge win over LSU in Baton Rouge, they were down 18-14 at halftime, and then came out and outscored LSU 35-7. I mean, again, it's Living Valley now.
Exactly.
You don't even, teams don't go there to die and just get wrecked anymore. I mean, now it's the other way around.
That's right.
I was also thoroughly impressed with Indiana's thumping of UCLA, I believe 56-6.
56-6, yeah.
Unreal.
Kirk Canadian Company continue to roll. We roll on here. Hour number 2 of Southeast Sports Plus continues after the break. Stay with us.
Outbound transmission?
Affirmative.
Crew ready?
Check.
Signal lock?
Check.
Downstream stations online?
Linked and locked.
Let's light this candle.
Flame on.
In 3, 2, roll show open.
In our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Simone and Gerhard Mathangani.
Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus. Hour number 2 starts with a barn burner of a game as Alabama goes to South Carolina. And they were down by 8 points late in the game, but thanks to Jeremy Bernard and company, Alabama comes away with a 29-22 victory. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, Gerhard Mathangani, Patrick Walsh with you. Patrick, that game reminds me, do you know those ink blot tests where it's ink on a canvas and you can see it as like a woman's face or like an hourglass?
Yes.
You could see it one of two ways.
So like, are you left or right brain?
Correct.
Yeah, like those.
This game and this result reminds me of one of those ink blot tests. You could see it in one of two ways. You could see it as an epic collapse for South Carolina, or you could see it as the resiliency of an Alabama football program that goes on the road to Williams-Brice Stadium and gets it done. I think more the latter. I think more this tells you what Alabama is going into this game. But what'd you make of this matchup here for Alabama going into that game as a favorite? The gauntlet that they had to go through just to get here and the way they performed on Saturday.
Well, I think honestly, you could look at it 3 different ways. The 2 you mentioned, and then I think some people are going to be like, oh, well, maybe Alabama is fraudulent all along, which I do not believe.
Correct.
Any
Same.
second.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have to go through the schedule that the Crimson Tide just went through, playing all of those ranked opponents, beating all of them, it's hard to get up for a game against a South Carolina team that now I believe is 3-5.
Yes.
I mean, you just cannot do it. And these guys, honestly, it showed me more again about Alabama and their way, the way Alabama was able to come back and win that game. And honestly, I was sitting watching this game, and I believe they were up. I think they went into halftime with the lead. I think it was like 14-6 at that point.
14-6, yep.
But it almost felt like they were down 14-6 just by how poorly the offense played.
Right,
but I mean, I more so think that these guys are just tired.
Yes.
I mean, you go through all of those tough games.
The first team in the SEC last week, they were the first team in the SEC to win 4 straight games over ranked opponents without a bye. And if it was Georgia, Vanderbilt, Missouri, and Tennessee. That's how they opened the SEC schedule, because they played Wisconsin. That was their final game in the non-conference. Florida State, Monroe, and then Wisconsin. They opened up the SEC with Georgia, then Vandy, Missouri, Tennessee. First team ever to win 4 straight without without a loss, number 1, and also without a bye week, number 2. But you're right. It was going to be hard for this team to continue to match that. Being able to bring it is one thing, but also going on the road is completely different against a South Carolina team that is talented. Keep in mind, South Carolina, in 4 weeks into the year, 3 weeks into the year, they were a top 15 football team with a good quarterback, and obviously the wheels have kind of fallen off there. But no, it showed me the resilience of Alabama more so than anything else. And you mentioned it, Bama being down 9 points or at 8 points there in the fourth quarter, and Jeremy Bernard really was kind of the key playmaker for this football team. And then on defense, you had Deontay Lawson, who came up with the huge fumble that led to that short touchdown drive. The game was tied at 22. He rips the ball away. Tim Keenan falls on the football. They get the turnover, and then they turn it into points to me, this is a complete game from a team, as you mentioned, that has to be super tired.
Yeah, have to be super tired, but I mean, it just goes and shows you again, good teams will win games no matter what. I mean, even on your worst day, even if you don't have things going your way, the offense for the first half was lackluster. It was a different Ty Simpson. He didn't turn the ball over. It was just it wasn't clean, wasn't crisp, wasn't a well-oiled machine. But good teams find a way to win games that they shouldn't. And this just proves Alabama 7 straight wins, unreal. The turnaround after the first game of the year, just absolutely unreal. The fact that they're even in this point right now. I think ESPN's FPI has them at a 92% chance to make the playoff. I mean, it's pretty much sealed.
Yeah, and if you look at a lot of the rankings, the power index rankings, don't look necessarily the coaches poll and the AP poll. If you look at a lot of the power index rankings, it's Ohio State number 1, Alabama number 2 in a lot of these polls. And I don't think that's wrong. All due respect to Indiana and a bunch of other teams that are in and around that top 25, that top 5 especially. Bama's sitting right there as one of the best, if not most impressive football teams. This wasn't an impressive win on the scoreboard, but it was definitely an impressive win as it relates to where they are in their season. You mentioned it, 7-1 overall, now undefeated, 5-0, one of 2 teams left undefeated there in the SEC. We got a chance to hear from head coach Kalen DeBoer after his team's win.
I just think the investment of time that we put in talking about the big plays and a mindset that you just got to keep swinging. You got to line up defensively and play another play. You got to forget about the last one. They scored on the possession before, and I mean, it was a shorter field, but going back out there and the next play is a whole different set of circumstances. And again, the critical moments and practicing the 2-minute drills and practicing, the third down plays and the fourth down ones, they aren't always going to work, but you play with confidence. When you play with confidence, you're giving yourself a chance.
And we've talked about this Alabama defense. They've really stepped up. However, there has been a little bit of a bugaboo with this defense as it relates to some quarterbacks and specifically stylistically how some quarterbacks play.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I mentioned this last week. The only thing that kind of concerns me about Alabama heading into the postseason is their inability to be able to stop a mobile quarterback. I mean, Sellers, he had a pretty good game. I was shocked that it feels wrong talking about player props after what happened last week, but I was shocked that Lenore Sellers over-under was set at like 25.5.
Right.
I mean,
it felt like free money.
Felt free money. I think I said that. I was like, oh, this is free money. 67 rush yards. And those P4 quarterbacks against the Tide, that's 266 yards, but I mean, that's including all of the Power 4 quarterbacks that have played. Some are pocket passers. I mean, Joey Aguilar's not a guy.
Yes.
I believe he rushed for negative 20 yards. So, I mean, if you were to just count the guys like Castellanos, Sellers, Pavia, I mean, just to name a few, those probably make up 95% of the stats on there.
Yeah.
But
and Gunner can run as well. Gunner Stockton can run as well. And he's had a few rushing touchdowns ever since that big game. Now is the bye week before the game against LSU. And if you spin forward Alabama's future here, it looks like, as you mentioned, they're a lock for the college football playoff. They will be favored in every game moving forward. They'll be favored against LSU. They'll be favored against Oklahoma, of course, Eastern Illinois, and against the Auburn Tigers. To me, this is a team that is well positioned, obviously, to finish the season off on a strong note. Obviously getting the bye week this week, and then going into the playoff, going into the SEC championship number 1, because it looks like as of right now it's going to be a collision course between Alabama and Texas A&M, and if Bama wins that game, that makes them look like a lock for a top 4 seed there in the college football playoff. To me, it seems like everything is kind of going. Obviously you have to watch out for injuries and whatnot. Everything's going the way of the Tide right now, and they have to feel really good about themselves of what's to come over the next month.
Yeah, and the only thing I really worry about right now is going to be the resiliency that they need to show. I mean, you lose the first game of the year. That's a good morale. That's a good booster for, okay, I need to get back in and work. But where's the will?
Yes.
That's just one thing I worry about these teams when they suffer an early loss, an early setback. They have their time of adversity right there. But as the season goes on, it feels like that slowly drains away, and that becomes a distant memory. And once you win all of these games, then, sometimes you can, I think you mentioned it last Friday, you can get fat and sassy, as they say in the betting world.
Shout out to Marco D'Angelo, fat and sassy. And that's a real thing for this football team. And can Coach Kalen DeBoer keep these guys' head on point to be able to say, hey, look, we have to continue to play better throughout the course of the season. But flipping the coin over to South Carolina, this is another really tough loss. And once again, this is a team that was top 25 going into the season, actually top 12, and I think at one point inside the top 10 after 3 games this season. But it seems to me that the wheels have kind of fallen off this football team, and the question now is where they go from here. There's some questions about the hot seat with this coach and Shane Beamer. The offense has not looked good at all. As it says there, 3 straight losses, and this one has to be the most painful because of the way that they played in the first 57 minutes.
I mean, you had the game. You honestly did, and then everything just sputtered out at the end. I mean, you had Alabama exactly where you wanted them. You had the lead. And Jeremy Bernard came and saved the day for Alabama. And it's just another loss that it hurts. I mean, I don't care where you come from. It hurts your morale to lose games like that where I think I read something where the fans were getting ready to storm the field. They all ran down to the front.
They all ran down literally to the front part of the bowl because they were ready to storm the field and take that $500,000 fine because I don't think they were going to wait for the Alabama players to walk off the field. They were ready to go.
What are we doing?
I have no clue.
Why are we prematurely celebrating?
Can't. And I think this is a South Carolina team that is so starved for a big win, and they felt it. It was right there. And they were up to 20-22 before the game got tied. And up 8 points, and it just felt like it was right there. And
who is the stamp of approval on their show? You know what I'm talking about? There's like one show where the guy gives.
Yes, yeah.
I want to start something where I give the stamp of disapproval. And the South Carolina student section, you get the Week 10 stamp of disapproval for that one. What are we doing?
Occupying that lower bowl just to try to, get out and celebrate. And next thing you know, you lost once again, and everybody goes back with their heads held very, very low there in Williams-Brice Stadium. We got a chance to hear from South Carolina head coach Shane Beamer on those missed opportunities.
We had a lot of great individual plays today, Jack, but we had a lot of plays where we just, we missed opportunities of just, we all week long we've been talking about the old adage, practice execution equals game day reality. And what we did in practice just needed to carry over to the game today, and plays that guys made in practice all week. We just, missed them today and didn't make enough, but that's what I told those guys. Same thing with Joyce. He missed a kick earlier, but I told him you're going to have to make some. You're going to make some to win it. And even after he made the one to take the lead, told him that you're going to have to, probably make another one here to help us win this thing too. So that's what I did.
You just gave what I think is going to be a great franchise on this program, the stamp of disapproval. And if you're looking at the South Carolina students, the same people you gave a stamp of disapproval to, just last week they had I'm going to use the word protest in the loosest terms, of Mike Shula, and they were very disapproving of him. They wanted him gone, and so the students came out and said, hey, no. Of course, everybody always points to the head coach. I think it's kind of sad that Shane Beamer is on the quote-unquote hot seat. Do you have any concerns on the South Carolina head ball coach?
No, I mean, this doesn't fall on him, I feel like, at all. I mean, coming into the season, we argued that South Carolina had one of the toughest SEC schedules up there with Oklahoma, and it's just you're trying to ride on a great season that Lenora Sellers had a year ago. But if you fire Shane Beamer, it's not like he's not going to have a job next year because, I mean, Blacksburg's just going to be like, hey, why don't you come on and carry the boats pretty much. But, no, this isn't Shane Beamer's fault necessarily. I think it's just a byproduct of you've got a tough schedule. I mean, I know the O-line has been a concern. There's a change at O-line coach. The run game has also been a concern. I think we talked about it after the Missouri game, the -8 rushing yards. That's never going to win you a game.
Never.
I mean, coming into the year, they had to find a way to replace Rocket Sanders from a year ago, and they just haven't been able to.
They haven't been able to, and I'm pulling up South Carolina's schedule as they move forward. Just looking to try to get a win because, as you mentioned it, it's
at Oxford this weekend.
3 tough losses. And
that's going to be another tough one.
Correct. Yes. At Oxford and at Texas A&M. These are the next couple of weeks for this football team, and it is not going to be easy for South Carolina moving forward. Coastal Carolina and Clemson close out the regular season, so they'll stay in the state of South Carolina throughout the end of the regular season. The last 2 games there against Coastal and Clemson, but 2 really, really tough ones on the road in Oxford and in College Station for the Gamecocks. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we'll talk a little Vanderbilt football. College game day was in town. They got a win. Looking to get another win over a really proud football program in the Texas Longhorns. We have that and more next. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, hour number 2 continues. After a great week in college football for the second time ever, Vanderbilt hosted College Game Day as the nation got ready for the college football slate. It all started in Nashville, and that is where our good friend Corey Curtis resides. And Corey, I have to tell you, I'll keep giving you your flowers on this program because you've been saying it.
I feel like he always makes that face.
Yes, I know. He's like, hey, look.
He's like, I told you so.
I've called it. Vanderbilt now improves to 7-1 overall, 3-1 in the SEC. They were only losses to Alabama, and there's nothing to sneeze at because they had opportunities even in that game. They haven't been blown out at all. They continue to make huge plays and win games. The latest one against Missouri, it was a barn burner, though. It ended off with about a foot and a half to spare there after the Hail Mary.
Maybe a half.
Yeah, exactly. What'd you make of the win and where Vanderbilt sits now after a very impressive victory?
Well, there's one of the things I like about this game is I told you guys last week, if they don't play well, they're not going to win.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they didn't play that well, and they still found a way to win against a top 15 team.
Yep.
So I think, that is one. Gosh, Clark Lee is freaking jacked. I mean, that's the mark of a good team, right? Is you win when you don't play your best.
Right.
And they found a way, and they didn't lose the belief, and they didn't waver in what they did. And guys, and I know that the ratings don't hold up, but this is their third win over a top 15 team this year.
Yep.
I mean, so they can't. That's a good Missouri football team. They were on their third quarterback, and he was still good.
Right.
So it wasn't a great performance, but it was good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I grew up in Chicago. There's nothing wrong with playing some defense and winning a game.
Absolutely, especially in this day and age. And now Vanderbilt off to their after their best start since FDR administration, way back in the 1940s. Now for this team as they move forward.
I think we were at Truman in 1947.
Was it 40? Was it 40? Was it Truman?
47 was. Oh, sorry. Truman's the last time they were ranked in the top 10.
Yes.
I did that.
Yes.
So you're referring to something else.
Yeah. I was talking about the start overall, best since 1941 with FDR.
That would have been FDR. Yeah.
Yes.
Now I wasn't around for that, but
Same.
FDR was.
Same. I was born just a hair after that. For this football team, it's now another big game this week against Texas, and they go on the road. This is a Texas team that is really, really confident as they move forward. What do you make of this week's matchup against a team that might be having a new quarterback there in QB1, but they're really solid and really confident after 3 straight wins?
Look, I mean, they started the year ranked number 1, and those rankings are based on what people look at your roster.
Right.
Okay. So it's like Penn State. Penn State hasn't been losing because the roster is bad.
Right.
There's something else going on there. And like with Texas, there are other things that have been going on that have held them back, but they're starting to win games. They were down big at Mississippi State and found a way to come back and win that football game. What are they, 5-2, 6-2 now?
Yes, 5-2. Yes, 5-2.
So this game, this is a circle the calendar game for them.
Absolutely.
I mean, they can get back on the playoff radar by winning this football game.
Yep.
And they know it. And so, you are absolutely going to get their best. I don't think that affects, Vanderbilt and the way they feel about they go play, but I do think it affects Texas in the way that they attack this football game. They're not down in the doldrums like they'd been a little bit earlier this year, but you don't know if you're going to have Arch Manning or not.
Right.
I don't know with the way he's played if that makes that much of a difference this year. I don't know a lot about their backup, but Arch has not had a great year. But this is a big one for Vanderbilt. I know what the ESPN numbers say. I still think they can lose this game or the Tennessee game and get in at 10-2. Yes. Not guaranteed, but I like their chances. But I know they don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what they can do. You've seen they can play defense. So I think this could be another lower scoring game. I think 24 points might be enough to win this one for you on either side.
Absolutely. Speaking of defense, the Vanderbilt defense, if you take away the scoreboard and just look at the yards allowed, it doesn't look very impressive. However, they get the job done, especially in the red zone. And you see it, 1 touchdown allowed in the fourth quarter, more than 370 yards. What did you make of this defense, and can that formula work in Austin?
Well, look, you don't ever want to. You can be bend but don't break. If you give up field goals, you're generally going to win football games.
Right.
But you don't want to test fate on that, and that's as long as your offense is still going. Now, this is the first game this year where I feel like the offense really stagnated some.
Yes.
You can point to Alabama. What did they score? 16 points in Alabama.
Yeah.
But they had 2 red zone turnovers.
Right.
So they very easily could have 30 points in that football game.
Right.
So this was easily their worst offensive performance. So if their offense gets back on track, their defense can do what it does, what it did in that game, and still be good enough. You want to put the pressure on Arch Manning if he plays, or whoever is in there at quarterback. But I have a hard time thinking Vanderbilt's offense is going to struggle this much 2 weeks in a row.
Right.
But, they're going down to Austin, and SEC Nation is in Austin.
Yes, that's right. That's right. It's a big one.
I don't know if I'm hopefully maybe the Vandy man will make his way down there to Austin for the game. They're undefeated with him in attendance this year.
Absolutely. The lights are getting brighter and brighter each week, but Vanderbilt continues to answer the call. We got a chance to hear from head coach Clark Lee after his team's big win.
I don't want to necessarily comment on the history or the mindset. That kind of stuff to me becomes a wash. I think what it says is this is a tough team that has the courage to be resilient and to step into the type of performance we need to win, whatever that performance looks like. And the mission is winning. And we talked about this in our meeting before we came over to the stadium today, that, I think sometimes we get in these modes where, I'm so proud of these guys, and I have such respect for them. And I'm so grateful, to be their coach and to be with them on the journey. But, I wasn't going to tell them that tonight didn't matter. This was an important game for us, and we needed to understand that. And the reason we do what we do, the reason this is the 291st day that we have sacrificed and invested and cared for one another, is because we have big goals. And so this team found a way to win, and I think it's a great lesson to them that, it can go our way for 4 quarters. It can go our way for 1 quarter at the end. And the point is, you step on the field with the attitude, the mindset, and you stay in the present, and good things happen.
One of the big things about Clark Lee that I've found really impressive since he got there is the fact that he has been able to stay on message the entire time. And while there's so much hype for his football team, and of course the quarterback, and there's a lot of celebrity, a lot of hype, a lot of noise, he just seems to keep this team grounded the entire time. What do you make of his leadership, his draft stock, so to speak, or his coaching stock, so to speak, as it continues to rise throughout the ranks of college football, and just his ability to have a pulse on this team, not just through these 8 games, but through the course of his time there?
It's interesting, having covered the NFL now for over 20 years and college football for a long time as well. Fans always love the coach who's all, fired up and yelling and screaming at everybody. But I always try to tell everybody, Tom Landry stood like this on the sideline for 25 years and won like 12 games a year with the Dallas Cowboys. All right. What the head coaching position about is having everybody organized and in position to do what they need to do. It's up to them to execute at that point. And Clark does not waver. He is the same guy, win or lose, winning or losing. He is steady as a rock. You have guys like Jerry Kill on your coaching staff who, while you're not there, come in and add the voltage, what's going on around them, and scream at everybody and get them going. You have guys like Diego Pavia to add that juice to your football team and that confidence to your football team and the public bravado that he is never going to provide. And look, whenever you win in college football, you are going to get on people's radar.
Yes.
Without question.
Right.
Having said that, I would be stunned if he left.
Okay.
I would be stunned if he left.
Yeah.
He is a Nashville guy. He is a Vanderbilt guy. And I still believe he wants to win, but he wants to win at Vanderbilt. I could be dead wrong, but I think winning at Vanderbilt is his life's mission.
Yeah.
And we'll see. We'll see, because there may be, Florida, Penn State.
Absolutely.
I mean, somebody may call.
Yeah.
But, they called for Tim Corbin over and over and over again. Auburn called him twice. Texas called him. LSU called him, and he said, "Nope, this is my home. This is my place." And last I looked, Tim Corbin was still here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And so I think that Clark Lee is in that similar boat.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go off script here. We talk about what does Vanderbilt do after Diego Pavia. Well, what's all the talk this weekend been about? No relation, 5-star quarterback Gerhard Curtis from Nashville Christian High School here. All the talk is he may decommit from Georgia and go to Vanderbilt.
Wow.
Nate Bargatze made the big push for him.
Wow.
But, that would be a coup. And that would be, I mean, he I don't know if you guys have seen any of, he's 6'5", 230, 240 pounds.
Yeah.
He can run, he can throw. He's
Diego
a big
2.0.
time. No, he's a foot taller than Diego. I mean, he looks like Matt Stafford. That's what he looks like.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying he's Matt Stafford, but when I watch him, I go, maybe he could be Matt Stafford.
Right. Right.
Like athletic, but like not like Lamar Jackson, but
Correct.
like big Josh Allen.
Yes.
Big, strong, athletic. But when you win, like Clark is doing now, it opens new doors to take Vanderbilt to where you want to take it. And that's not saying they're going to get this kid.
Right.
But they're in the market for him now, where 2 years ago, there's just about no way.
Right. And it wouldn't be a second thought that a guy like that would go to Vanderbilt. But now with Clark Lee and the way the momentum is going, this is the reason why you can get those guys. And I think you make a great point about him wanting to win at Vanderbilt. And this would not be without precedent. You saw a guy like Chris Peterson stay at Boise State for forever and wanted to make that program the best that it could be before he moved on to Washington. Speaking of the immediate future, though, when you look at Vanderbilt's next few games here, is this a team that you think can run the table, finish the season with one loss, and make it into the college football playoff?
Are you really asking me that question?
I was going to ask you that way. You could just say, duh.
Yes, they can.
Yeah.
Yes, they can. Now, can they also go 2-2? Sure. It's the Southeastern Conference. These teams can all play.
Sure.
I mean, as bad as Kentucky's has looked, they just hung 34 points on Tennessee in a loss.
Yes, right.
So, I mean, every one of these teams can play. You almost saw Mississippi State knock off Texas. South Carolina had Alabama down for 3 quarters. And Vanderbilt didn't play great last weekend. But can they run the table? Absolutely. I mean, they're ranked 9th in the country. They're 6-1. They're going to Texas. Have we seen a line on this game yet?
The line that I saw was Texas minus 1.5. I think it opened 2, and Texas is now a 1-point favorite. And that's with Vegas knowing that it might not be Arch Manning under center.
I would have guessed exactly that 1.5 points, which tells you that they're taking Vanderbilt winning there really, really seriously. In Tennessee, Auburn and Kentucky, their seasons are over.
Absolutely.
They're a disaster. So as long as you show up ready to play, you should win those football games.
Absolutely.
But there are no automatics. But Tennessee, they got problems on defense. Big problems on defense.
Right.
And that we have touted since like week 1 that we wanted Vanderbilt at Tennessee for a spot in the college football playoff. Yes. I mean, and it would be absolutely incredible if that were the case. What would be even more incredible is if Tennessee won and they both still got in.
Right.
But the chances of that are not great. But right now Vanderbilt's resume is a lot better, and if they go to Texas and win, it'll continue to get better. But they're absolutely capable of beating. It's funny because I was in the newsroom and I was talking with some of the anchors and reporters in there, and they were like, well, Vanderbilt's a nice story. Do you really think they can make the playoff? I'm like, guys, they're a national championship contender. And they're like, oh, what are you talking about?
Right.
I'm like, what
they still aren't even on the hype.
No, I'm like, what aren't you understanding about this team? That's the great thing about college football this year. There's a bunch that's really good, but I don't think there's that elite team. There's not that uber team that nobody thinks they can get by.
Right.
Now, UCLA might tell you it's Indiana after last week.
Yeah.
But because that wasn't. Dion might tell you it's Utah after last week. But, I think it sets up. I mean, I know it's only year 2 for the playoff, but it sets up for me to be the greatest postseason
100%.
Because normally we only think there's like 1 or 2 teams that can win it, but I think there'll be a case to be made for 6-7 teams,
absolutely,
6-7 to win it, and and watch, it'll still wind up being Ohio State and Notre Dame or whatever.
Right.
But there's a lot of possibilities. If I told you Alabama was going to win it, you wouldn't be surprised.
Not be shocked.
If I still told you Georgia was going to come in and win it, you would not be surprised.
No.
If I still told you it was Ohio State, if I told you at this point Indiana was going to win it, you would probably be like, yeah,
makes
they're
sense.
really, really good.
By
the way, is Kurt Signetti going to go to Penn State? You think that's the call?
Nah. I think
too much money now.
Yeah, when they locked him up to $92 million, I think he's there.
You're talking about schools paying coaches $55 and $70 million to lead.
Right.
You think money's going to get in the way of you finding somebody else?
I think that he.
They already owe Franklin $50 million.
Right.
They'd have to pay another $50 million.
They don't care.
See,
because there's no money to pay players. We heard that for years.
Right.
No money to pay players.
But it would just be shocking to me because throughout Franklin's tenure, it felt like Penn State didn't take the necessary steps to get them over the hump. It always felt like, they'd be decent, but they just never shelled out the top of the line money for the players. Like, I mean, we're talking like Ohio State here. There's a reason why they couldn't beat Ohio State and they couldn't beat Michigan.
They were regarded as having maybe the best talent in the country coming into this season.
Yeah.
So I don't think talent, should have been an issue for them.
Yeah.
There was clearly something broken inside the team. And again, I will always say, James Franklin wasn't fired because he lost. James Franklin was fired because he was not pleasant to be around and he lost.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And you can say the same for Brian Kelly down in LSU. When you get fired after three losses, they were waiting for a reason.
Yep.
All right. They were waiting for a reason, and both those schools, had seen enough. They needed, because they didn't want them to get hot to finish the year and then have to keep them.
Now
They're like, get rid of them now.
Yeah.
Get rid of them now.
Yeah.
So I mean, this coaching cycle is fascinating.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, the people who are going to go and who's going to get another job, who's going to work and who isn't. I mean, I don't know.
It's unbelievable. And Clark Lee's name will be floated around for a lot of jobs, but our man Corey Curtis says he wants to win there in Nash Vegas. Corey,
I could be wrong, but I wouldn't bet. I wouldn't bet on him leaving.
And honestly, you make a great point, and I'm right there with you. I think that he wants to stay and make Vandy a national power, especially if he can recruit, like you're talking about, some of these top end talents to be able to stay there in Tennessee and stay in Nashville. Corey, thank you so much for your time here on Southeast Sports Plus. You're the best, man.
All right, big brain.
Absolutely. Corey Curtis there out of Nashville saying, hey, not only does they have a chance to beat Texas, they have a chance to go 11-1, finish the regular season, and go on to the college football playoff.
Yeah, but I mean, I think if you were to choose when you lose one more game, it'd probably be this game rather than your in-state rival at the end of the year against the Vols.
Yeah.
That would probably still set up a chance to, go to the college football playoff, but I think this weekend they have a good chance. I still think even if Arch was playing, they still probably have a good chance.
Right.
He brings up a good point, though. I don't see Pavia getting stopped for 2 weeks in a row, even though the Texas defense is that good.
They are legit. I
mean, they allowed 380 yards to Blake Shapen.
Correct. Right. So, I mean, I think that Pavia will eat in this game. Can the defense hold their own against whether it is Matthew Caldwell or Arch Manning? We will see coming up on Saturday. Coming up next year on Southeast Sports Plus, talk a little Oklahoma football. That's next. Stay with us. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, hour number 2 continues. Gerhard, Mathangani, and Patrick Walsh with you, and we're joined by our good friend Brian Brinkley. And Brian, you are obviously navigating the wet weather over there. We saw it there in Norman in the Ole Miss Oklahoma game. How are you surviving the wet weather over there?
Well, it was a chaotic week here, or last week was, at least. We had a bunch of high school games moved from Friday to Thursday, and that didn't work because it rained all Thursday night. So games got delayed and not finished till after 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the morning. And then we saw what it was like in Norman, at least in the first half on Saturday.
Yeah, and the defense really took one on the chin there as Lane Kiffin and company come back to win the football game over the Sooners. As you rewind that football game and as you rewind the stakes that are involved with it, we'll talk big picture in a moment, but just that game in a vacuum with what John Mateer was going to be able to do heading into it, what the defense allowed with Trinidad Chambliss in it. How do you digest what happened on Saturday and what it means for Oklahoma's immediate future?
I think the most shocking thing was how the defense played. OU's defense, even in the loss to Texas, was pretty sound most of the time, and I mean, Ole Miss kind of torched them.
Yeah,
Chambliss was something else. He did this is the second time he's done this to an Oklahoma team. When he was at Ferris State last year, they played Central Oklahoma in the playoffs in the snow, and they just went nuts. I think Ferris State won the game 78-17.
Wow.
So, and it was the most points UCO had given up since 1917 or something like that. So he did it again to an Oklahoma team. He was incredible. And, I mean, Ole Miss was doing a lot of different things that Oklahoma just couldn't handle, and that's the most surprising thing of the day. The Sooners were able to respond there in the fourth quarter. Xavier Robinson was a key piece to the comeback, got a couple touchdown runs there and got OU back in front, but the defense could not make the stops. And then just a huge turnover on the punt return by Satania there mid-fourth quarter. That's just a critical mistake you can't make in a game like that.
Absolutely. You mentioned the 16 points there in the third quarter to eventually take the lead. But as you run down Oklahoma's the numbers overall, especially on offense, 4 for 14 on third downs, 1 for 3 on fourth downs. I mean, obviously it's still 300-plus yards on the game. But what do you make of where this offense is as they seemingly continue to struggle to play with the same consistency that they did at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, I think they're a little bit of a crossroads offensively here because Torrey Blaylock had been the main guy at running back. And then in my opinion, he makes a mistake there on the goal line. He's running along the goal line and gets tackled for a save. You've got to get out of the end zone. That is priority one.
Right.
He didn't do it. So then Xavier Robinson comes in, has a big game, but then Mateer clearly was just not the Mateer. I mean, he had his moments where he was really good, but as Ben Arbuckle said after the game, he had a lot of misses that he should have been able to hit on pass plays, and he just clearly has not been the same since the surgery on his hand. And I don't know if that's a mental thing or a physical thing, but they've got to get him back to playing the way he was early in the season. And the running game is still just kind of inconsistent. You don't really know what you're going to get from game to game there. And if they can get Blaylock and Robinson going together, then they got a pretty decent 1-2 punch there at the running back.
Right. Has Ben Arbuckle said anything specifically about what he thinks might be some of the offensive issues? Because it just looked like this Oklahoma team was just humming, and it looked like John Mateer was, setting himself up for a spot in New York for the Heisman Trophy, and it just seems that it's weirder because it's not an overall collapse, because that's one thing that can be explained. It just feels like it's been disjointed.
Yeah, well, part of it I think is they're playing an SEC schedule, so we have to take that into account.
Absolutely.
These are the most difficult opponents John Mateer's ever had to face.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. The offensive line is getting nicked up, and maybe that's an understatement.
Yeah.
They had problems there last year with the health, and that's starting to become a factor again. I don't think Arbuckle or Venables is not going to admit that that's an issue, but I think that's part of the problem at this point. And there just seems like they never seem like they got into a rhythm at all against Ole Miss. They couldn't. There was no consistency. They had one drive where they looked fantastic. Other drives they didn't look good at all, and that was even in the South Carolina game. It was like that, and they won that one.
Right. Got a chance to hear from head coach Brent Venables after the loss to Lane Kiffin and company on Saturday?
Yeah, no, I think we missed some opportunity. I don't know, setback. That's for everybody else to say. I certainly, losing ain't ever good, and there's nothing necessarily that, we're not going to be bragging on anything. There's nothing to brag about. We needed to coach them better and play better, be better situationally. We made some critical mistakes in the game, and if the players are making the mistakes on the field, then we got to look at ourselves and what we're asking them to do. But watched the tape already. Watched it in real time, and then watched it on the sideline, and watched it again. At halftime, and so. We needed to execute at a better level, and so if we're not executing like we need to, then that comes back to to us as a staff, and we got to do a better job having our guys ready to execute. Cleaner, play better football that way.
So this Arkansas defense, this Oklahoma defense has been kind of one of the bell cows for this football program in the first few weeks of the season. It's struggled here as of late. Now it's a trip. Now it's a game against Tennessee, who is probably one of the best, if not the best, offense in the country. What do you make here of this matchup? And are there some growing concerns that John Matier and company will have to put up 30-plus, 40-plus possibly in order to come away with a win against Tennessee?
They may have to. I mean, this is definitely a kind of gut check moment for the Oklahoma defense. It's one thing, to have an off day at home. They have got to be on their A game when they go to Knoxville on Saturday. It's going to be loud. It's at night. I've already seen the Balls are doing their dark mode for that game. So this is going to be a major test. And I think Brent Venables was as shocked as anybody about how the defense played against Ole Miss. So they are going to go back to the drawing board this week and get to work, and they have a major challenge on their hands on Saturday night.
Absolutely. I know it's been a long time. Time has been removed since Josh Heupel's time, both as a player there at Oklahoma. Is there any talk in Sooner Nation about the homecoming return there for Josh Heupel there in Tennessee?
Not quite as much as last year, obviously, when they came to Norman. You could tell, though, going into the game last year that meant a lot to him. He deflected all of that and said it was about the team. But, I mean, you probably saw the post-game celebration in the locker room. That was clearly an emotional game for Josh for a lot of different reasons. And so this is a little bit different, got a little bit different vibe with them being at home. The other thing I was surprised. I listened to Josh at his news conference today. It only lasted like about 7 minutes. I'm like, that's the entire news. There was one question about OU. Last year there was a ton of them. Obviously, that was the first time. And it's still, as he said last year, he knows still knows a lot of people that are at OU or were there when he was there and are still big fans. So it's going to mean a little extra than it is for the other home games this year, but not anything quite to the level it was last year when he was coming to Owen Field.
Absolutely. Before we let you go, we want to talk of some Oklahoma City Thunder off to a 3-0 start. They dropped the banner last week, got a nice win over the Rockets in the season opener. What do you make so far? 3 games into an 82-game regular season here for the defending champions.
Well, they've had 2 double overtime games, so I was relieved to see Saturday night that they only had to do it in regulation against the Hawks. But I think this is good for them early to get these tests. They know they're going to get the best shot from every team they play this year, and so far so good. They're 3-0. They know they have a lot to work on, and now they're dealing with injuries. Jalen Williams hasn't played yet this year. Isaiah Joe's been out. Alex Caruso missed the last game with a concussion. So they've had a few guys out, but A.J. Mitchell's really stepped up. He's showing he's the next rising star, I think, for the Thunder. And he has just stepped right in. He had 14 points the other night against the Hawks. And Chet Holmgren, we sometimes forget, I think, how young he still is. Right. And how much progress he can still make. I mean, he was fantastic Saturday night, 31 points at 6 threes, and SGA another night at the office with 30. So far, so good. They finished their road trip tonight in Dallas and then have a home game tomorrow night. So a busy early schedule for OKC.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time here, Brian. I know it's a very, very busy time for you guys, both on the college football scene, the NBA scene as well. Stay dry and stay warm there in Oklahoma.
I'll try to. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Brian Brinkley, with our affiliate there in Oklahoma City. Lots of great football, lots of great basketball there in OKC, and a big one to look forward to this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to last week. They played Game 8, as I like to call it, of the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
You know, I guess I can say that they won the series 5-3 now officially. The double overtime against the Pacers. SGA, new career high.
Yep.
I think what was it, 55, 56, something like that. But all I got to say is my GOAT, Tyrese Halliburton, posted on his Instagram the other day that he dunked. He's already dunking.
He's back. He
is so back. Except the Pacers are 0-3 right
now. They're just waiting for their hero to come back.
Just waiting.
And Tyrese Halliburton and company. Great talk there with Brian Brinkley, both on the NBA and college football fronts. Looking forward to this big weekend against Tennessee. Coming up next, we talk about the Fall Classic, Game 3 of the World Series. Coming up next. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, closing up shop here on a Monday. Great guest today. We had Roger Wallace out of Texas. Also had Brian Brinkley, we just talked to, out of Oklahoma City, and Corey Curtis joining us from Nashville. All three of those teams, all three of the teams that they cover, coming off really interesting weekends as they move forward, coming up into this next weekend. But before we go here, Patrick, we've been keeping our eyes here on a very, very entertaining Major League Baseball playoffs. We're now in the Fall Classic. It's now tied up at 1-1 here. This, to me, has been an interesting series and kind of hard to digest who will be better moving forward because we've seen the best of both teams.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Game 1, that 9-run sixth inning, I mean, just unheard of. We were watching it as we were doing high school football on Friday, and I think I went back and I rewatched the pinch hit grand slam by Addison Barger, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, I wish I was there. 'Cause, I mean, that would have been incredible to be there for. And then you go to Game 2, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto's complete game. I mean, just this guy's been lights out. Back-to-back complete games, going back to the NLCS and now the World Series. I mean, no walks. Walks hurt in the postseason, and he's just been able to eliminate them all.
Absolutely, and you get really a sense of the way both teams want to play. The Blue Jays want to get to the Dodgers bullpen just like the way they did against Blake Snell early on, and the Dodgers are saying, hey, if we can keep our starter on the mound through 6, through 7, through 8, that gives them a best possible chance to play. Which mode do you think continues to work for each team as they move forward? Because we've seen the best, in my opinion, we've seen the best of both teams. Obviously, the Dodgers bats, we've seen them, they haven't really exploded, but they've gotten just enough of what they needed to over the last 2 games.
I feel like the Blue Jays are going to take this game tonight only because Glasnow in years past has struggled with finding the zone and being able to consistently light up the zone. the Blue Jays, weirdly enough, have been boom or bust this year, this postseason. And, I mean, you saw it in Game 1, the big innings. And honestly, you could make that argument for any team. The big innings are the ones that really hurt you if you're the other team.
Right.
But Game 1, it's a slugfest. They hit home runs. Alejandro Kirk home run. We talked about the Barger grand slam.
Yeah.
You go to Game 2, you get nothing. So, but in a way, though, the Blue Jays lineup is constructed so balanced to the point where you've got the top of the lineup that can really do your damage. I mean, you're talking Springer, Lucas, Guerrero, and Kirk, who can all hit home runs.
Right.
And then you look at the flip side, you've got Ernie Clement, Andres Jimenez, and, I mean, getting Bo Bichette back. I completely forgot about Bo Bichette coming back. That was a big thing.
Yeah.
It's just such an interesting lineup, and then the Dodgers they're still the Dodgers.
They're still the Dodgers. And the series now moves over to LA.
Yes.
How big is that from a perspective for LA, because obviously that's probably one of the best home field advantages in all of Major League Baseball. I just had to pull it up, 52 wins at home this year. And do you think the Blue Jays, you think there's a little bit of a pullback there going on the road in a hostile environment there in LA?
Well, I mean, you look at this postseason, they've lost one home game, and it was to the Phillies, and they were already up 2-0 in the series the NLDS. So, I mean, they could have afforded a loss. You have a complete sweep of the Brewers. You sweep the Reds in the wild card series, and you win in 4 games against the Phillies. So, it's going to be interesting, but I just have a weird feeling that the Blue Jays, they're going to get their bats going, and it really does start with Vlad Guerrero.
Yeah.
I mean, he is offense.
Right.
Coming into this postseason. Vlad doesn't show up in the postseason.
Right.
Well, he's showing up here, and if they win the World Series,
Max Scherzer does the 40. Obviously going against
Mizzou Hall of Fame, so tie. Game with